NHS.org. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. Be a part of the show by calling 915-544-KTSM. 915-544-5876. Or comment online on our stream at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. It's 4 p.m. Mountain Time, and that means it's time to talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in. However you may be doing so, as we still got that a little bit of cough going on here. Try to keep it on lockdown as we're getting better every day. But we got so much more to talk to that we can't slow down at all because you're just a whole lot going on. More fallout from, of course, the elections that just happened, setting up those future races. More analysis coming in and more ideas about what we're going to be facing. Plus those other couple of even more elections than I was fully explaining to y'all. So we'll get into that here. Plus some local kerfuffle going on in terms of bars versus noise ordinance, bars versus neighbors, essentially. And now that it seems like things are speeding back up. I don't know about you, but it seems like there's more things are happening in and around the area, more events, more people getting out, more traffic, even just if you want to be just strictly about the roads. And I take those all as positives, but are there wrinkles in the plan and how city council is responding to that? Plus a whole lot more, including, I don't know if you've looked at the prices at the pump, even just as of today, like day over day, looking at, depending on where you're shopping or where you're doing your pump fill up, almost 30-cent jump there. I said it before that you might want to keep them filled up a bit more than usual, and that is bearing out. So just some of the things on my mind as we head into this Thursday here on the show. Of course, some of the best ways you can interact with the show throughout the broadcast are going to be over on the social pages, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or Twitch, Andrew J. Polk. A lot of comments coming from all those regions. We try to get to as many as we can, and that often takes on its own tenor of conversation over there. Open up the phone lines a little bit later in the program, as we do once we get through all of our very important subjects to be debated and get into here. Again, I really hope that you all claimed your very nice I voted locally produced sticker here. I very much like the program and the way they do with that in our area, and just got out and, well, made your voice heard. 1 in 10 of actual registered voters in El Paso, so my bad math comes back correct. We're looking at about 1 in 20 people in El Paso seem to have made it out to the polls, give or take a percentage point or two. Don't hold me to this. I'm not good on my Common Core. But we still saw at least double digits. Still going to take that as my small consolation, as I'm hoping we can continue to ramp that up as we get into, well, more of these. Though I guess I do have a bit of a concern about election fatigue. But just some of the numbers and some of the analysis coming out of it is that we mentioned it was kind of a mixed bag for incumbents when it came to those, midterm election, these primary midterm election results, because got to be technical with this because we are facing a lot more elections, which does have me concerned about the election fatigue. But according to Texas Association of Broadcasters and others, only one Texas incumbent lost their job Tuesday. Some may be facing more with the runoff on May 24th, but this hits right home that Art Fierro, state representative from the House District 79, was the only one to have actually in the primary and not even waiting until a runoff to be knocked out of his position. Of course, as we had Claudio Ordaz Perez, who was previously of the 76th district, but got drawn out of that one because of the redistricting and the whole backroom insider deals, redistricting, playing ball or not. We've talked about that story a bit here, but hitting very much home because Fierro, the only one to end up being unseated as a part of this. Though, of course, there are plenty of runoffs that are being looked at here as well. I mean, just some of the incumbents that are facing runoff as we go into, again, May 24th. So stay tuned for more coverage on that. We do have Attorney General Ken Paxton facing down still technically Texas Land Commissioner George P. Bush. Checked on that. He is Land Commissioner. Why there are some spots in Texas where if you renounce you're running for a different seat, you automatically lose it, but there are others that don't. Well, that hasn't been clearly explained to me, except for, it's just the way that the statutes and the laws that have been put into place have been mentioned, which has led to at least one situation within our local area that I can recall, even within just the past couple of years, where someone accidentally published their Facebook page saying that they were running for a different seat, and that may have then technically triggered them no longer being a city council member. Yeah, that's kind of the weirdness. The closer you look at some of these races and election, the weirder it gets here. But of course, we're also looking at a railroad commissioner, Wayne Christian, facing a runoff here, a couple of other GOP incumbents across the state, but then also one that we have had brought up a little bit, not on the ballot within the Borderland, but looking statewide, the Democrat congressional representative of the 28th Congressional District, Henry Cuellar, facing a runoff in his own race. You may recall that one coming up due to investigations surrounding Eastern Europe and some of those regions around there. That, of course, that situation coming into a lot sharper focus over these past couple of days. But as John Braslett mentions over there, looking at, some serious situations at the gas pump. Actually, on my way in here today, did notice that there was, I couldn't quite see the flag on the microphone, but looked like one local news station standing out front of a gas pump and showing that, not a great price, unless you're just real enthusiastic about ever getting closer to $4 a gallon of gas. Not quite my idea of a party, but if you're into that kind of thing, be it for me to ruin your fun, but a lot more people might disagree with you there. And that is kind of the kerfuffle over the whole next step of sanctions, because there is still that part coming out of Russia, still energy supplies. And even though out of the State of the Union address, of course, there was mention about trying to keep the pain domestically anyway down, still a lot more, hindsight being 2020 and the past coming to bite you in the butt, definitely features of the modern era and more rapid than I think anyone could really have anticipated, because with the decisions that have been made since the beginning of this administration when it comes to energy supplies, prioritization thereof, and now looking at, estimates vary between 600 and I believe 800 million barrels of oil over various production time frames. I think it's on order of weeks to months that could have been made up by other production methods, such as, the Keystone Pipeline that, of course, was shut down in the process of being constructed, to now where we are. RJ making a very good point there over on the YouTube page. Whether a few hundred or thousands decide your district or citywide, your vote counts, even in some of these races that we are still going to be analyzing and talking about as we head towards these runoffs. We're talking about, I think the closest one that I noticed, 15 votes. So seriously, like I've said, make your plan to vote so that if you have your bus load, I know there were some of all you who threatened out there to do a party bus with the tacos, and were y'all going to be giving out the free beer, or did I imagine that? Would still love to see local breweries get on board with that. Come present your I voted sticker and a, valid ID, of course, and you will be able to get your free beer for that. I'd be on board with that, and I think that would, even if not necessarily for the totally right reasons, increase voter turnout. I just want people to get to the polls, to get used to it, because we definitely don't have a culture of voting here. As we also have Edgar Ortiz on board with us over on the Facebook page, facebook.com/Talk El Paso. We need to improve the culture of voting here, but we're kind of all over the place here with our topics. Setting up the show here today, coming up in the need for that first break, we'll delve a little bit deeper into some of these, including, let's start with the oil situation, because if you're filling up or wondering, oh, shoot, I missed that, keeping my tank at about half, and it's about to be real painful. Talk about the situations going into that and what that is going to mean here locally into the foreseeable future. Anyway, so due for that first break of the hour right now. Again, you're tuned in here to Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I am your host, Andrew J. Polk. Comments over on the social media and a lot more topics we're getting into here today, so stay tuned. Back after this break with more. Don't go anywhere.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Loop 375 northbound and North Loop Drive, a disabled vehicle is blocking the right lane. Stay left there on 375 northbound at Pan American. The off-ramp is reopened there from roadwork. Injury accident downtown at Campbell and Texas Avenue. Take Franklin or Mesa Street as alternates. Another wreck with injuries near UTEP at Kansas Street north of Schuster at Hague. Carrie Edwards El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Al-Anon Family Groups.
I found hope in the midst of an overwhelming situation.
Alcoholism can affect any family. Are you in an overwhelming situation because of someone else's drinking? Al-Anon and Alateen can help. Call 866-200-0033 or visit alanon.org/hope.
If you are covered by Medicare and Medicaid, then El Paso Health Plus Medicare Advantage Plan offers great supplemental benefits designed specifically for El Pasoans, such as $3,500 a year in dental benefits, $300 in vision, and a quarterly OTC card with $250 to spend on health and wellness products. Plus, generous benefits for hearing, podiatry, home-delivered meals, and so much more. Plus, our new Get Fit benefit to keep you active and social, as well as our new Healthy Eats program. At El Paso Health Plus, we go the extra mile for our members because this is our home and our local knowledgeable staff is here to help you get more benefits, more services, more from your health plan. If you are covered by Medicare and Medicaid, call us 833-742-3125 or visit ephmedicare.com. El Paso Health Plus, your local Medicare Advantage plan.
When your children go to play at someone else's home or they attend a sleepover, ask the homeowner if there is a firearm present and how it is being stored. These are important questions that every parent should ask to help keep their children safe. For resources on how to talk to others about gun safety or information on safe gun storage options, go to safegunstorage.texas.com. Let's keep them safe, Texas. Brought to you by the Texas Department of Public Safety.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to find a needle in a haystack, but not with ZipRecruiter. Its powerful technology actively finds and invites qualified candidates to apply to your job. So while other companies might deliver a lot of hay, ZipRecruiter finds you the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/trial. That's ZipRecruiter.com/trial.
Teens in foster care will love you, even if you don't know the lingo.
Dad bod, noun. The result of the occasional donut, always washed down with confidence.
Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council. Visit adoptuskids.org.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in, however you may be doing so. A lot of ways to interact with the show. We are here, highly medicated and motivated, ready to go forward. Still getting over that being down with the sickness thing, so please pardon the spare cough or two. I've got plenty of fluids and teas and everything here in front of me, but one might escape through here. But also John Browston over our stalwart audio monitor here letting us know that should be a little bit better, but just let us know how that sounds. Lot of stuff going on here today, a lot of comments coming in. RJ and others over on the YouTube, John Browston and Edgar Ortiz, more over on the Facebook page. Those are some of the better ways to leave your comments throughout the show. The Skeptic Squad often wakes up at this point, and, well, the conversation takes on its own tone and tenor, and we'll dip into that here, opening up those phone lines a little bit later in the program, as we usually do, probably end of next segment, as has kind of been on the balance, what we've been doing here, but so much to get into here. RJ saying that Pakistan, a.k.a. Raggedy Ann, said wouldn't make a difference. I think referring to some of the oil imports and such going on with that. Definitely seeing some of the pain around the area. Again, I want to say just down the street from our offices here, looking at the straight non-member price here. That's one of the gas stations that does that, I think. Looking at a $3.89, or definitely in the 380s coming in, which is the high water mark that I've noticed on this part of town. It's interesting always how it can be varying a little bit depending on literally where you're buying your gas in town, but an upward trend tends to be, well, applicable across most of the region here. So if you haven't been being a little bit more judicious than not when it comes to, well, taking care of your tank, might be in for a next pain point next time you go to fill up. And that is something that has been a bit of a sharp focus coming into amongst all of the sanctions that have been brought up by some of you all, as well as more national commentators, including a story over on our website, KTSMradio.com. Bipartisan group of Texas lawmakers urge divestment from Russia. We've been seeing a bit of that going on nationally. Of course, there have been the ever-increasing sanctions, the new ones announced by the White House today, focusing specifically on oligarchs in various ways. The amusingly named, I think, klepto group, essentially looking at seizing assets, preventing use of assets of things like yachts, super wealthy kind of stuff, of those parked in the U.S. So definitely putting the squeeze on specific people within Russia, or supposedly the inner circle, or near as you can get anyway, to, of course, Russian President Vladimir Putin. But the notable exception has, of course, been on energy supplies. And, well, you look at the pump and, RJ was clarifying Jen Psaki, who, yes, we happen to have a couple of clips from, because, of course, the part that has been brought up is that if you put the squeeze on the oil supplies, that, well, here's what she had to say a little bit earlier today.
That would raise prices at the gas pump for the American people around the world because it would reduce the supply available.
And again, the way the supply is available and where it actually came from, hindsight 2020 and the stink that you just passed going to be the one that's going to bite you on the butt. Absolutely coming through it. Kathy Cordray actually bringing up another very relevant point there as well, that China is funding Russia. There's I forget the correct acronym for it, but essentially China, Russia, India, Venezuela, and Brazil group that is increasingly emerging as, I guess, kind of, depending on the narrative that you're buying into here, if we're truly staring down the barrel of the next Cold War, or, I mean, at the moment, we're looking at a very hot war when it comes to what's going on in the Ukraine area and all of the situations there, but not technically involving open hostilities between, well, NATO and Russian interests. Again, depending, it kind of gets semantical there after a little bit, the further you dive deep down into it. But yeah, China having said that, yeah, we will essentially be very interested in buying whatever energy stuff that you want to put out there. And just another aspect I'm looking at is deals being made between those two groups. And when it comes to things like agricultural products, fertilizer, those being locked down, being shipped out already as it is. So things, a phrase that I use that is kind of an omnibus. So I want to be clear when I say it, things are probably going to get weirder before anything else, before getting overall better. Now, when I say weirder, it doesn't mean just bad. Some things could technically look up, depending on the kind of microcosm you look at it in, because another thing with surging energy prices tends to mean that there will be more oil exploration happening even just within our area, either looking kind of the southeastern corner of New Mexico, or kind of when you take West Texas straight west and then meet the Panhandle coming down from the north in that kind of, Midland, Odessa area. Probably more interest in it there. That's always seen its ebb and flow. So that could be technically positive for those areas. But again, weird is the phrase I choose to use, because overall, not for like great reasons that this is happening, because there might be a desperate need for that kind of a thing, because as much talk as there has been about electric vehicles, including that weird kerfuffle within Congress lately about the United States Post Office plan to modernize its fleet, but still looking at, well, essentially traditional, conventional vehicles and not moving into electric, that has led some, well, progressives essentially to say, we don't like this plan because you're not looking enough towards the future. Well, in the meantime, whether the future is ready for current implementation is a very, very reasonable question here. Also, John Browson pointing out that, yeah, according to the internet, Russian ships transporting oil not leaving Russian ports very quickly, or in some cases being told, you're not welcome here. Don't let the door hit you on the way out, kind of a situation. So energy probably going to be, again, weird is the phrase that covers a whole lot of territory for me, but if you get the usage I'm putting onto it, things are not going to necessarily be all bad. On the balance, probably not a whole lot of good, but there's not even like a silver lining kind of moment here, but just weird implementations of things. But going back to what's coming out of the White House, again, Jen Psaki saying that this being the kind of major reluctance point, even if there are, well, a lot more bipartisan push either from Texas. Again, if you want to go to that story over on our website, showing that 23 state senators have sent a letter to Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick asking him to start the process of withdrawing the state from Russian investments. And then, well, if you look frankly, in some of the national arenas about the discussion on this, looking at, well, among other people, Nancy Pelosi actually supports halting Russian oil imports to the U.S. But again, coming out of the White House, seeming like that's going to be not quite last ditch, but I mean, I guess there's a discussion to be had about what pain points are willing to be endured. Again, here's Jen Psaki.
The president's objective has been to maximize impact on President Putin and Russia while minimizing impact to us and our allies and partners.
I mean, impact's already being felt, again, just down the streets. And I'm sure within your own neighborhoods, if you haven't been outside today to take a look at it, probably going to be a little bit surprising to you. I thought it was wrong at first, or it did make me do a double take, essentially. And I've got a half-empty tank that I'm glad I haven't let go much further than that, and I'm not looking forward to paying, well, near about what I would for a full tank about a year ago or 2 years ago for that. A whole lot more discussion happening here on these points. Again, if you want to go and check out or on the social pages. But again, the advice that I've said ever since this whole instability started is, yeah, keep your tanks at least half full if you can, because, well, it just keeps the price points not exactly down, but diminishing in its aggregate, so you're not paying as much at a time here. And there are entirely possible moments that I could see coming up here where there might be shortages, where there might actually be a lack of supply here. One of the comments coming in here, Catherine Codry saying that they need to open up the Keystone Pipeline and stop funding Russia's pipeline. I think a little bit of a misunderstanding there, because the Keystone XL pipeline was not fully finished. Of course, it was under construction. The 10,000 or so jobs that were lost in that initial decision coming out of one of the earliest ones of this administration, if I do recall correctly. So it wouldn't be something where it could be flicked on tomorrow, but there's probably a bit more evaluation of the strategic importance of such a thing beyond, I guess, environmental. Yeah, it's amazing what kind of things fall away once you start getting hit in the face with the reality, right? Because, I mean, really, if we're not looking at serious strategic viability of things, I mean, I think that might be actually, even just this own region, if we're looking at, that nearshoring or that, investment happening in our area might be more strategically important going forward, particularly if we're looking at these kind of conflicts, hopefully, not knock on wood, escalating, but just continuing to get weird. And if we are truly staring down the barrel of a second Cold War, because, oh boy, I, again, don't trust Vladimir Putin anywhere near as far as I could throw him, even if I could lay a hand on him. Might do more than throw him. No, I can never visit Russia, and I have made my peace with this. But specifically, if things are going to be essentially a refracturing of the global system that we have looked at, I mean, any product ahead of the pandemic that you were able to buy commercially, mass market, probably saw sourcing from literally around the globe more often than not. Another reason I also like talking about shopping, buying, supporting local is to kind of help with that. But if we're going to look at a refracturing and a realignment of these global systems, things are probably going to be crunched at best until more strategic thinking goes into it. One of the other impacts that has come to my mind out of this, that whole exploration potential in the, just eastern reaches of the borderland here, looking for those rare earth metals. Wonder if that might get a little bit of a shot in the arm here. We've talked about that a few times over the past years, but yeah, it is weird. That's the phrase I keep coming back to. It's going to get weirder before anything returns to any sense, even probably of normalcy, even if, really think about it, normal was always kind of an average, because, one person's normal could be someone else's really bad day, week, month, year, life, etc. So all to do for that next break right now. Coming back from the break, talking a little bit more local about some of those, well, trying to get back to, again, normal in quotes here, and what's going on with bars and the people who live around them. Noise versus neighbors. Talking about that after this break. Here with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
I'm Justin Creeth, your CBS 4 News update. A pilot is recovering from minor injuries after crashing his plane near Las Cruces yesterday afternoon. Investigators say the plane lost power during takeoff and crash landed just outside of airport property. The pilot was able to get out of the plane before paramedics arrived. There were no other passengers on board. New Mexico State Police is going to be taking over the investigation. Today, the El Paso Parks and Rec Department is going to be closing the Grandview Senior Center. The Senior Center is located in central El Paso. It's set to undergo some upgrades. During construction, Senior Center activities will take place at Grandview Shelter, which is right next door. That will operate from 9 in the morning until 1, Monday through Friday. Workers in Las Cruces were singled out yesterday as part of the mayor's 15th State of the City address. Mayor Ken Migashima and his staff said that healthcare workers and emergency personnel were commended for their response to the COVID-19 pandemic. With your CBS 4 News update, I'm Justin Cree.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
I-10 eastbound at Dallas, that's exit 20 downtown. A stalled vehicle is blocking the left shoulder. On Loop 375 northbound at North Loop, a stalled vehicle is blocking the right lane. Stay left there. Kansas Street north of Schuster at Hague Road. An injury accident there with medical crew on the scene. And an injury accident downtown Campbell Street at Texas Avenue. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, this is Chief Meteorologist Sandra Diaz. The clouds have continued to move on in and moisture is moving in as well. And we're going to stay overcast as we go through the night, but we are expecting to see bigger changes arriving on Friday. We've got a big area of low pressure moving in out of the west, and it's almost going to act like a spoke as it pinwheels several disturbances through the borderland over the weekend and into the beginning of next week. Bottom line, folks, is we're in for some roller coaster temperatures and some stronger winds with blowing dust.
This report is sponsored by Mako.
The uh-ohs are out there. Scratches, dents, unexpected natural events. But with Mako and their magic, your car is no longer tragic. So when life throws you uh-ohs, just say,
better get Mako.
And go to Mako.com to book your appointment today.
iHeartRadio Earth is here with little tips for a healthier planet. It sure feels good to step into a warm car after letting it heat up for a few minutes. However, this practice wastes gas, increases emissions, and pollutes the air. Limit idling your car to no more than 3 minutes to save money at the gas station and improve air quality. Brought to you by iHeartRadio Earth and the National Environmental Education Foundation. To find more tips for smarter, sustainable living, or to take action in your own community, go to iHeartRadio.com/Earth.
Mass Mutual knows retirement can be an uncomfortable conversation.
Who's the big boy?
You are.
Who's going to take care of us when we retire?
It's going to be you.
You're going to make sure we don't end up in a retirement home.
Or if we do, it's a really nice one.
With tango lessons.
And bocce ball.
And a community pool. Oh.
Talk to us about retirement today. Feel comfortable about tomorrow. Mass Mutual. Live me.
I love when my friends stop by, but to help keep my friends and my family safe, I always spray Lysol in my home before guests arrive and again after they leave. Nothing kills more viruses on more surfaces than Lysol disinfectant spray. Lysol, what it takes to protect. Use as directed.
Right now, there are young people across the world facing a tough choice. Continue their dream of education or drop out to help their family put food on the table. You can help change their future in a single moment. See how far your support can go at unbound.org. This report is sponsored by unbound.org.
News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. Thank you for tuning in however you may be doing so, be it on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on our various social pages, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, the Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or Twitch, Andrew J. Polk. A lot of conversation going on over there with some, it almost seems like odds being drawn up here at Lupinato, saying that he would pay to see me and Vladi in the octagon. I'm not saying I'd be good. I'm just saying I would give it my best if I ever ended up having such an opportunity here. But also John Brazelton pointing out that he didn't have his honorary black belt canceled. Vlad just did. Not that that would be a whole lot of consolation to me if I did end up in the ring with him. But some other comments coming in. Catherine Cortry saying, pointing out, interestingly, something I haven't been watching that much, I'll be honest, propane prices also skyrocketed in the past couple of weeks. I mean, that's why I say energy in general probably going to get weirder before it gets better. And RJ also commenting and more. So if you're wanting to chime in over there, one of the better ways throughout the program. But for those listening terrestrially, we'll be opening up those phone lines here probably end of this segment as we do. So stay tuned for that if you want to add your 2 cents that way. And as always, if you're out on the road, stay safe out there. Road conditions always interesting around the borderland here, big with all those impending road projects. So, okay, just my experience in being out and about today, seeing what looked like more activity. It felt like more traffic to me anyway, even just on my neighborhood and the drive here. And it does seem like people are willing to do more, get out, do more now that we're looking at those 2 disparate weeks of winter that we go through here into those very much spring already. I mean, even before the end of February, we're in what I would have called El Paso spring, or also known as the just pre-summer period, as we often end up with here. And one of the consequences, of course, that comes along with that is people wanting to go out, do more things, particularly taking part in some of the patio bars. A lot of them we have around here. And I've been seeing a lot of commentary, particularly around some city council discussion about, noise complaints and noise ordinances that could be impacting those bars and businesses' ability to do so. Specifically, over from our news partners at KFOX 14, them looking at, City Council has been doing some discussion about how the amplified sound thing, it always seems to come down to this. There's been a couple of notable examples over the past couple of years of bars getting into, serious issues, both with City Council. Three-Legged Monkey comes to mind, though that was its own bit of a special situation, so maybe best not even brought up here. But more specifically, that it's not even that these bars are doing something new, but that after coming out of the restrictions from the pandemic, nearby homeowners are now saying, it seems like it's louder than it was before, even if only there was a bit of a lull in between when things were pretty shut down. Of the industries most impacted across the state, I'm going to be hard-pressed to think of one that had more of a just complete kibosh put on their ability to do business than bars and directly alcohol-related industries. Some of our previous guests here on this show, including the breweries, basically had to shutter, and I'm surprised that we still have more or less the amount that we had pre-pandemic when it comes to breweries, even if some bars, I know of at least a couple run by people that I was very familiar with at the time and very sad to see go, ended up shutting down. Bars, absolutely one of the hardest hit ones. So as we're seeing this continued emergence and consumer confidence, very key, coming along with this, coming out of the restrictions and people feeling more comfortable and wanting to go out, wanting to do things. I think that demand has been there for a minute, but again, to badly quote Roadhouse, people don't want to go out to a bloodbath. If they don't, meaning which, if they don't feel safe, there's going to be that hesitation. So with the burgeoning consumer confidence that you can't just declare back, that is a definitely non-fungible asset there. With people willing to do that, if they can't, get the experience they want, how is that going to work out? So this discussion coming out of, again, El Paso City Council, and they said they are looking to make changes to the noise ordinance because having police or code enforcement officers checking on complaints every night is eating up resources, again, according to the city of El Paso. So they're looking at revising the ordinance to better manage the issue between business owners and homeowners. Specifically mentioned here, visited was the Gringo Theory Patio Bar on Montana Avenue, which has been around for several years. I think 6 mentioned the article here, but that's some of the nearby neighbors having, I guess, grown to enjoy the silence, so to speak, or the lack of overall noise during the height of the pandemic restrictions, now saying that it seems louder, taking some issues with lyrics and such and that kind of a thing, and now wanting there to be maybe differences on, again, the amplified sound past midnight seems to be at least a little bit of what might be coming out of this here. So the ability to use speakers for live bands, etc. And of course, it's not just the Gringo Theory Bar, just the one mentioned here from our news partners. And I've seen other our area bars, even just right across the street from us here at our studios, including Hope and Anchor, taking also concerns about that and how it might impact their business. So curious to know what you all have to say about that, is because if we're really looking at people wanting to go out, I mean, I guess if it's blanket applied, but not all of these situations are going to be equal otherwise. So we're looking at essentially picking winners and losers, that's going to be a real issue for me. But again, curious to know what you all have to say about that if you go out to bars or like to patronize them. I feel like patio bars have been on the rise. I mean, never exactly not present in our area, but it's well suited to the temperament, the general weather we have. And I think even for those that might have some hesitations about being out in public or in crowds, whatever size they may be, I think patio bars offer kind of the best middle ground for general audiences and general consumers in our area because it's outside, it's open air, it's fresh. Again, the weather usually works out pretty well in our area to support them anyway, which is why, I'll be perfectly honest, tends to be the ones that I go to when I find myself at a bar. I do tend to prefer the patio one just because I like it a little bit better. No, I'm not supported by any, but if they want to give me a call, they're welcome to. But just what do you all think? Is the noise ordinance, if anyone lives near a bar, would definitely love to hear from you about what your perspective on this potential change to the noise ordinance, or if you really see it as an issue here. So I think we'll go ahead and take that break here and open up those phone lines, because if you're wanting to call in about this or any of the other situations we've been bringing up here, that number to do so is 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. We brought up a lot here today, so let's get into the discussion on these. Again, question of the moment. Anyway, your perspective on noise ordinances, should they be changing, and how do you feel that might impact local businesses and bars as they try to continue the resurgence or getting anywhere back near what normal could look like? So again, the number to call, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. A lot of comments. We'll get into those and more after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Don't go anywhere.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
El Paso Freeway is looking pretty good right now. Got a stalled vehicle blocking the left shoulder, I-10 westbound at Copia Street, and Joe Battle Boulevard southbound at Montana. A stalled vehicle blocking the right shoulder. Police and medical crew still working an injury accident, Kansas Street north of Schuster at Hague. You can take University Avenue or North Mesa Street as alternates around it. Kerry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by Blindster. Do you need new blinds or shades? Blindster.com offers custom-made blind shades and shutters shipped directly to you at prices less than big box retailers. Blindster blinds are easy to install and guaranteed to fit. Don't overpay for new blinds. Shop Blindster today and save big. Blindster.com.
What's done more to improve overall health and wellness? Modern medicine or personal hygiene? Actually, it's both. But considering that bathing went mainstream in the 1800s and brushing your teeth in the 1900s, isn't it time for something new, like cleaning your nose? After all, your nose is the body's air filter for trapping dirt and germs, the first line of defense against allergens, bacteria, and viruses from getting into your lungs. But how do you clean your nose? With Navage. Navage isn't medicine, it's more like plumbing. Navage uses powered suction to pull saline in one nostril to the very back of the nose where germs can get trapped and multiply, and then out the other nostril, flushing out mucus and microbes so you can breathe better, sleep deeper, snore less, and stay healthier. Join over 2 million others and find out for yourself how refreshing and easy to use Navage is. At Navage.com, Walgreens, CVS, Rite Aid, Bed Bath, and Target. Navage. Clean nose, healthy life.
Hey, Mario Courtney Lopez here. We know life's moments are definitely better together.
And Smart Mouth mouthwash gives us the confidence to always be ready to make the most of these moments.
Whether in studio, on the red carpet, or around the house, having the confidence to get close is amazing.
Mm-hmm. Our lives are better together with Smart Mouth. Just 2 rinses a day means fresh breath for 24 hours.
Find it at your favorite drug, grocery, or supercenter store, or save 20% at smartmouth.com/radio.
I'm Chief Meteorologist Monica Cortez. What motivates me? A lot of people depend on me, and I want to do my job right to be able to protect my community and give them what they need to better prepare for their day. I guess I just want to tell people who have been following me, who have been watching KTSM and seeing me grow in this career, thank you. You know, it means a lot to see you appreciate what I do. I'm going to make sure I put out the best forecast I can because I do care about you. I care about El Paso. So thank you.
Joe Buck and John Smoltz welcoming you back to the City Center Convenience Mart. Uh-oh. She's looking at the cigarettes, but she just grabs the gum off the counter. Stand Up to Cancer and Rally want you to reduce your risk for cancer. Go to takeahealthystand.org.
News Radio 690 KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. Your host, Andrew J. Polk. A lot of ways to interact with the show. We do have that phone line open right now. The number to call is 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Calling in the middle of a segment, you might get put on a brief hold, but you'll hear everything going on the show. Otherwise, welcome to do so. Phone lines open now. Again, 915-544-5876. A lot of comments coming in over as well on the social medias. Ed Clore pointing out that, yeah, I'd seen that going by as well, an oil and gas hiring event in Odessa at the Marriott in Odessa March 31st. I recall in previous years when we've seen other boom moments going on with the regional drilling industry is the way I'm going to choose to put it right now. Back in my time in TV, more specifically, remember that I did a story about it and about how there was even like 6-figure entry level stuff going on there. The problem with that kind of employment is that it is not at all consistent. You might get it for a while and it'll be a heck of a bust. I spent some time out in like the, again, Midland, Odessa, and even like Hobb, New Mexico kind of area. And the boom and bust is oh so real out there. There were like the slingshot 3-wheeled cars. I mean, kind of expensive, not really daily driver kind of things. Literally, get too much money kind of problem vehicles out there. There were dealerships for this kind of vehicle out there, along with, $70,000, $80,000 minimum trucks out there. So I guess the best advice that someone in that industry told me is that if you're really looking to get into this, you better have padding up yourself, because if you think that it's going to stay consistent all throughout, history has proven that not to be the case. So there's probably going to be a lot of interest given just geopolitics and everything that comes with it with the regional drilling industry, even if there are now some interesting differences going on between the New Mexico and Texas side of things. I think Texas is probably going to continue pretty well apace and even see a lot more starts within the state here. So, if you're interested and have the availability, it's absolutely something that you could, look at getting into. I expect more of this hiring to be going on there before too long. Anyway, and John Brownson pointing out very accurately, if the price of a barrel of oil reaches $159 to $200 a barrel, we'll have plenty of oil being pumped. No doubt about that there. Even maybe some restarts, a lot more look at fracking or hydraulic fracturing going on within the region, even if there are, pros and cons when it comes to that situation as well. Point is that, I would expect quite the boom of energy supplies and need for it within our area. Louis Pinato, to a previous point we're making up here, that electric vehicles are a novelty. The industry can't stand on its own. If it weren't for subsidies, it would not exist commercially. Interesting point that got brought up to me there, actually, I saw it going by, is that, of course, whenever you think electric vehicles these days, you're probably thinking Tesla, even though there are other companies that are doing it. The interesting thing is that, of course, there are subsidies in place, particularly for, like, Tesla, but that their entire point is not even necessarily the vehicles. Like, sure, they got the more expensive ones, they got the cheaper ones, but that it's almost, think about more like a web browser that you're paying for, because, sure, you're paying a lot for a vehicle that has its pros and cons, but that from Tesla's side of it, they're almost more interested in your usage of the vehicle and the data that they are absolutely getting from it, because you can almost think of a vehicle of that stature as less of a vehicle and more of a data collection suite that you are then paying for, because all of that data, everything you do in it, basically gets sent straight back to Tesla, including the data and improving their data they have on roads, on traffic, on driving conditions, and that are then servicing them in their future goals, whatever they may be. So just interesting point that's been brought up to me out there. But a couple of the questions we got going out for you right now is about on the whole noise ordinance. If anyone lives near a bar, near a restaurant, near one of these amplified live music venues kind of things, which does cover a lot of area, but that coming under focus with city council lately. And also, gas prices, how you feel about that. Again, the number to call, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. You have a call on the line here right now. You're live with Talk El Paso. Who's this?
This is Raul.
Hi there, Raul. What's on your mind?
Hey, well, I used to live near that three-legged monkey,
Mhm.
and it's not cool if you live near it. They should not allow those kinds of businesses close to residential areas. You know, people's homes are very special to them, and most of us work, all our lives to buy one and maintain one, and to have that disrupt your peace of mind is just it's unacceptable. They have to change that. Goofy Governor Greg Abbott and the Republicans have failed Texas kids, parents, and educators. Texas ranks 40th in the country in school funding, and yet we're the state with the third largest GDP in the country. 7 out of 10 Texan fourth graders cannot read at grade level at our public schools right now. And one reason might be because we don't adequately support our teachers and our educators. Texas is at a $4,000 per student deficit compared to what other states spend on their education. That's just unacceptable. It's just wrong. Goofy Governor Abbott also and the Republicans failed to protect Texans. 80,000 Texans lost their lives to COVID, and Texas leads the nation in COVID hospitalizations. And one reason for that might be that Texas is the least insured state in the country. When we had this pandemic, it showed the weaknesses of a private healthcare system. If you could afford it, you're fine. If you can't, tough luck, or you're going to have a great big bill down the line. On gun regulations, Beto recently said that he doesn't see how anybody needs to have these AR-15s and AK-47s, that no one except a soldier on the battlefield should have that kind of weapon. And we know about it because that's one of those guys used that to kill that people here in El Paso, one of these terrorists with his gun. And on gun regulations said that this says, I'm going to make sure that we both protect the Second Amendment and do a better job of protecting the lives of those in our communities. So that's on that front. On another front, how about Trump's former Attorney General, William Barr's interview with Lester Holt? How would you like to have gotten that interview, huh, Andrew? NBC News about Barr's new book, One Damn Thing After Another. In the book, Barr describes Trump's meltdown when they fought over his election loss in 2020. And Barr says that he told Trump that all that stuff was BS about election fraud. And in an early leak section of the book, Trump's former Attorney General eviscerates the ex-president for inciting the insurrection and for being unfit to lead the Republican Party. Last but not least, the January 6th panel says that it has evidence that Trump broke laws in trying to overturn the election. That January 6th committee in a federal court filing a case to obtain documents from Trump world lawyer John Eastman. It revealed in those filings that the committee has concluded that Donald Trump obstructed an official proceeding, may have engaged in criminal acts to overturn the 2020 presidential election, and engaged in a criminal conspiracy to defraud the United States.
I mean, I'm as interested in the results of this investigation as others, even if I'm not totally sure that that particular investigative body is really going to be able to come to conclusions that will be, I guess, acceptability is not really the concern with it, but that don't have issues with how they were put together. It isn't exactly like a gold star, unpolitically motivated kind of committee there. I mean, if there were ever going to be any other conclusions coming out of it, I don't think it would be this body to have come with it. Here did catch a little bit of that interview, of course, here, but I mean, there was a lot of people that were part of the first Trump administration that I don't think would be invited back for another one, including quite possibly the vice president coming out of that here. But there's a lot more to get into there. And also, just, I would have loved to have conducted that interview. Again, we have an open invitation to particularly those that are going to be on the runoff ballots to come on to this show here, working with some of them here. And again, we do have some coming up for you specifically next week outside of runoff ballots, but upcoming ballots as well. More to get into there. But again, to then Beto, the part you brought up there earlier, yeah, I'm not sure his whole pivots now that we've got that ballot set coming up in November with him facing directly down on Texas Governor Greg Abbott is really going to work out for him. Sure, it's a little bit of a softening of the hell yes, we'll take your AR-15s, your AK-47s, but, well, again, okay, we put that question out there before, might as well refresh it here today. Do you buy it? Do you believe it? Do you think that this is something that would actually come in? It previously to what he has said recently, he was kind of saying, well, I'm not sure I'm totally on board with the constitutional carry, permitless carry, depending on how you want to phrase it, bills that were passed in Texas and that are now in effect, I might add. That was kind of the line he was taking, but if he's kind of going back towards that old one, kind of going in the wrong direction, I would think, when it comes to trying to court the larger audience here in Texas, because the way it usually works anyway is that towards primaries, you end up going more partisan, and then coming towards the general election, you go less partisan. But hey, who am I to judge or guess what their actual planning is within that administration? Anyway, that potential administration. Oh, a lot of comments coming in here. We'll squeeze another call before we hit this next top of the hour break. Again, the number to call is 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. You're live with Talk El Paso. Who's this?
Hey, it's Mark on the west side. How you doing?
Hi there. Doing all right. What's on your mind?
So I just wanted to respond to Raul's comments on education. So I'm a teacher, and I just wanted to state the obvious that, more money doesn't mean better education. And in fact, the way that our school districts are set up and the way a lot of government jobs are set up is that they can't reward a teacher with a higher salary for doing a better job. So, there's an incentive there for everybody to just do the minimum. And teachers are great people. I totally respect my colleagues and everybody that I work with, but it's hard to expect people to do more, to go above and beyond what they're being paid when there's not even a chance of getting paid more for excelling. And I've been in other industries where if I brought in more business, if I did a better job, I could get paid. I think it comes down to a fundamental, difference of ideology as far as, who the stakeholders are. Is the state who is the stakeholder in our kids' education, or is it parents? And it can't say, if the kids can't read and the parents are upset about that, so they're going to call their local representatives. Their local representatives are then going to go, give more money to the district to do it. There's too many middlemen. It's like, give the power back to deal with, their children's own education. Give the power to the districts and the schools to reward teachers, or let those teachers go that just aren't hacking it. So I don't know. I just felt like it was necessary to state the obvious when somebody says, we're not paying as much per pupil. I mean, there's places in this country where they're paying $30,000 a year per kid, and they have worse education than we do. And so money certainly should never be used as a measure of how well we're doing education. And that's all I wanted to say. Thanks, Andrew.
No, sure thing. I think it's a very valid point here. Yeah, throwing money at a problem is rarely the only solution or the best solution, because if you're not looking at things like implementation, metrics to go along with it, how you're even measuring the success, it can be seriously problematic at best here. So we're going to have to take that break here coming up right now. We do got more calls in line, and we will get to more of those coming out of this break here. Again, you're listening to Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. If you want to chime in yourself here, that number to do so, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
On Loop 375 southbound at Montana Avenue, watch for a stalled vehicle blocking the right shoulder. On the 10 eastbound downtown at Dallas, that's exit 20. Another stalled vehicle blocking the left shoulder. Yarborough Drive southbound just south of the 10 gateway at Esther Road. A crash there is blocking traffic. Use Giles or Lafayette Drive as alternates. And Campbell downtown at Texas Avenue. Police still working that accident. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
If you are covered by Medicare and Medicaid, then El Paso Health Plus Medicare Advantage Plan offers great supplemental benefits designed specifically for El Pasoans, such as $3,500 a year in dental benefits, $300 in vision, and a quarterly OTC card with $250 to spend on health and wellness products. Plus, generous benefits for hearing, podiatry, home-delivered meals, and so much more. Plus, our new Get Fit benefit to keep you active and social, as well as our new Healthy Eats program. At El Paso Health Plus, we go the extra mile for our members because this is our home, and our local knowledgeable staff is here to help you get more benefits, more services, more from your health plan. If you are covered by Medicare and Medicaid, call us 833-742-3125 or visit ephmedicare.com. El Paso Health Plus, your local Medicare Advantage plan.
News on the hour and a half. Traffic and weather all day. News Radio 690 is KTSM AM El Paso, an iHeart radio station.
NBC News Radio, I'm Brian Shook. President Biden says sweeping economic sanctions on Russia are having a profound impact. Biden opened a cabinet meeting and announced new sanctions on Russian oligarchs. He said the latest measures will further squeeze Russia's economic sector. The president said Americans are standing behind Ukraine.
And on Tuesday night at the Capitol, we saw America united in support of Ukraine and in our work to hold Putin accountable.
The president of Ukraine says he and President Biden have good contact. However, President Zelensky added it should have come sooner.
It's a pity that it began after the beginning of this war.
He then told reporters the whole world is late with Ukraine. The U.S. and its allies have pledged financial aid and military supplies, but will not send in troops or establish a no-fly zone over Ukraine. The former Kentucky officer charged in connection with the deadly botched raid involving Breonna Taylor has been found not guilty. Brett Hankison testified he fired 10 times because he thought 2 other cops were being executed. Those 2 have already been cleared in Taylor's death. Hankison was charged with endangering neighbors by firing the shots. Police were looking for Taylor's ex-boyfriend in connection with drug charges in the 2020 raid. Connecticut's Attorney General is announcing a historic settlement with Purdue Pharma and the Sackler family. Lisa Taylor reports.
William Tong says the Sacklers have agreed to pay out more than $6 billion for their role in the nationwide opioid crisis. This is 40% more than what was agreed to in a previous settlement, which was vacated after Tong filed an appeal. As part of the agreement, the Sackler family will give up control of the Connecticut-based company that produces OxyContin and for the first time issue an apology for fueling the deadly opioid epidemic.
The Dow lost 97 points to 33,795. You're listening to the latest from NBC News Radio. The Surgeon General is requesting big tech companies turn over data about COVID misinformation on their platforms. Dina Kodiak reports.
The information request asks companies to provide exactly how many users saw or may have been exposed to COVID-19 misinformation. The Surgeon General is also asking the public and healthcare workers to provide information on how misinformation affected their communities. The requests are part of President Biden's COVID National Preparedness Plan unveiled this week.
A man is behind bars in connection with a shooting that killed 1 person and wounded 13 more at a hookah lounge in Las Vegas. Lee Wilson was arrested Tuesday and faces 1 count of open murder and a dozen counts of attempted murder. It's unclear why there's 12 counts, even though 13 people were wounded. Wilson has already done time in Nevada State Prison for attempted murder. Police initially said Saturday's shooting happened during an argument and believe there could be more suspects. New Jersey is joining other governments in distancing itself from Russia because of the country's invasion of Ukraine. Scott Pringle reports.
Governor Murphy ordered all state agencies to cut off any ties with Russian entities. He also applauds State Senator Paul Sarlo's bill that would divest public worker pension funds from companies with links to the Russian government.
Russia, sadly for the Russian people, is led by a thug who runs a kleptocracy and is murdering innocent Ukrainians.
Murphy says he sent a letter to President Biden telling him New Jersey will take in Ukrainian refugees. New Jersey has one of the largest Ukrainian populations in the nation.
Rapper Jack Harlow is set to star in the reboot of a beloved film. Harlow will be making his acting debut in a remake of White Men Can't Jump. The film is being executive produced by Brooklyn Nets player Blake Griffin. The original movie follows 2 street basketball hustlers that team up for the ultimate hustle. Harlow will be playing the role that was made famous by Woody Harrelson. Brian Shook, NBC News Radio.
This report is sponsored by Indeed.com. If cold candidate calls aren't turning into hot hiring leads, then you need Indeed, because Indeed's powerful hiring platform makes it easy to attract, screen, and interview candidates all from one place. Find your next great hire visiting Indeed.com/credit.
The Ridiculous Crime Podcast proves that true crime isn't always about mayhem and murder. Sometimes it's just silly. Take a deep dive into the absurd side of criminality with tales of stupid capers and idiotic cons that are 99% murder-free and 100% ridiculous.
16-year-old Max Wade decides to steal the yellow and black Lamborghini Gallardo Spider. The owner? You know him as Guy Fieri.
Listen to Ridiculous Crime on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
I loved playing high school sports. I loved the competition, the camaraderie, the bands, the crowds, all the pageantry, and I wanted to keep playing. But I graduated. No colleges called, and neither did the pros. So, to stay close to the game I loved, I decided to become a high school official. You know, a referee. When I played high school sports, I learned the importance of integrity, good sportsmanship, and respect for the rules. Now, as a high school official, I get to help model these same values to others. Maybe the colleges and the pros didn't call, but the kids in Texas did. And now, I'm enjoying the competition, the camaraderie, the bands, the crowds, and all the pageantry of high school sports all over again.
This message presented by the Texas University Interscholastic League and the Texas High School Athletic Directors Association.
Kids dream big. Protect your child's dreams by keeping them healthy. If your son or daughter is age 11 or 12, the American Cancer Society recommends giving them the HPV vaccine to help prevent HPV cancers later. Learn more at cancer.org/dreambig.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thanks for tuning in, however you may be doing so, on air, online, live, streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app, or joining us over on the various social pages, facebook.com/Talk El Paso, Talk El Paso channel over on YouTube, Twitter at Talk El Paso, or Twitch, Andrew J. Polk. Interesting comments come in from all those directions. The Facebook, primarily the main one out there. That's where the Skeptic Squad lives, even though we got a lot of activity on YouTube lately. Kathy Cordry, RJ, and more over there, along with Louis Penato, John Brazelton, Mark Rios, Ruby Rivera, Ed Clore, and more tuning in, chiming in, Flaco Jimenez as well. So a lot of comments going on here, a lot of conversation about education and such. One thing I wanted to point out, actually, before we got to those phone calls, because we are doing those phone lines open right now, 915-544-5876, 915-544-KTSM, if you're doing the kind of old school thinking about the letters on the numbers there. Anyway, since we, of course, had the State of the Union address happen this week with a lot of priorities and policy positions wrapped up into it, I'd been looking forward to and actually, frankly, missed out on what was going on with the Texas State of the State, and just another one of those interesting little quirks that we have of this former Republic of Texas. Happy belated Texas Independence Day, everyone, to you as well. Missed out on that yesterday in our major coverage of elections and State of the Union. Too much going on this week, but there's actually not going to be a State of the State address, because instead, when the session is, well, not in place at the moment, as it is, we are in the biennial off period when it comes to the Texas legislature. There's only a report to the people of Texas out from the governor's office that does address education, as it has come up here. The 58-page report does talk about the priorities that came out of the legislative session here. Again, according to the governor's office here of Texas Governor Greg Abbott, that they did continuing the state's commitment to public education by fully funding the school finance system, strengthened by HB 3, and provides an additional $664 million for targeted programs. Substantial increase in federal funding, over $16 billion, and more. You can see it for yourself here. Specifically mentioned in the report is also Vista Hills Elementary School here in El Paso is one of 26 exemplary Texas schools named as 2021 National Blue Ribbon Schools. Again, just look for the 2022 report to the people of Texas for some light reading. There are only 58 pages of it, but if you want to find a bit more about the kind of, state level priorities there and what is being talked about, you're more than welcome to hear the RJ over on the YouTube saying Blue City High diplomas plus a year of night school to be able to read to the diploma there, and stop teaching to the STARS test and just teach, I mean, absolutely. I definitely feel I benefited from teachers who were very interested in the quality, the overall holistic nature of the education, and not just how you're doing on the standardized tests. I mean, I guess metrics are important. Without any metrics, you start getting into kind of wee-woo land of, okay, what are we actually doing, and how do we know that what we're doing is working without just doing total aggregate kind of, okay, how do jobs look? How do earnings look? What does the brain drain look like? So, I mean, it's useful, but it can absolutely go too far. Moderation in all things, even in moderation, is a persuasive phrase for me. A lot of other comments coming in here, but let's get to those phone lines. Again, the number to call, 915-544-5876, 544 KTSM. One last minute comment here from Michael Armstead when it comes to those elections, saying, I'm pulling for all incumbents to lose and run off. Some of these career politicians need to find another way to make a living. I've said it before, and I'll say it again before we're done with all of this, as our discussion about the things that happen in the borderland. I never want a politician to feel comfortable. Anytime they do, I think we're usually to the general detriment here, but, well, maybe that's just me. Anyway, calls on the line, 915-544-5876, 544 KTSM. Do have Andrew on the west side here with us right now. Andrew, thanks for joining us.
Yes, thank you, and good afternoon.
The afternoon. What's on your mind?
Yes, reference these nightclubs and this noise problem. I would say if it's an indoor venue, pretty much leave them alone. Yes, outdoor, and you're near a residential area. One of the few times I do agree with Raul. They do need to be regulated, because if you go down here in the area by Cincinnati, it can present a problem.
I've been to, not a whole lot lately. Again, when I do go out, tend to prefer the actual outdoor kind of based areas. The patio bars, as they are often kind of generally referred to here, tend to be my preference, and they're definitely the ones going to be looking to be under the gun from any of these kind of changes.
Yes, I agree. I prefer those too. But anyway, switching tracks a bit, in reference to what that Raul character said.
Sure.
Well, he and Beto O'Rourke know nothing about guns, especially when they talk about AR-15s and AK-47s being weapons of war. Okay, the AK-47 is a fully automatic weapon. The weapons that are available to civilians are called Wasser 10s. Those and the AR-15s are semi-auto. Now, a lot of people say, well, AR stands for assault rifle. No, that was named after the original manufacturer, the Armalite Rifle Corporation.
Absolutely, but and then, I mean, there's, depending on how deep you get into the internet, which is almost never a good advisable course of action. Some people say AK stands for automatic killer when it stands for Automovac Kolishnikov. Like, the analysis gets way off the rails really quick if you're really looking for it.
Yes, I agree. Now, my second point is you start banning common semi-automatic weapons, and who's to say, okay, well, we're going to ban your deer rifle because those are sniper rifles. Okay, a lot of people don't realize standard Wasser 10 or AK-47 uses a 7.62. That's just 30 caliber. That's basically that's basically a hunting round. It's just the 7.62 39 that the AK uses is just shorter. But anyway, you start there, and then they're going to ban your other semi-automatics, because a lot of people don't even realize the function is the same system as your AR-15 and your Wasser 10. They are both semi-auto weapons.
Oh, absolutely. And that narrative is clearly being set up across the country. Not quite flying in Texas at this moment, but the whole, now we need to ban dangerous sniper rifles. True. You want to talk about actually high-powered rounds, that's when you start getting into it. So that fix is already ready to go once this moves past it here. And I basically, if it isn't bolt action, guarantee that it's probably going to be a semi-auto in some way or form or shape or another that you or I have used in almost any circumstance involving a firearm.
Yes, and that'll include your 22 plinkers too that are semi. Now, as I've said before, guns are not the problem. Just like a car does not kill somebody; it's the driver behind the wheel. Reference that. It's the person pulling the trigger. The only way you're going to curb gun violence is to punish these individuals who use guns in a crime. Lock them up.
I mean, there are tons, literally, I think if you printed out the paperwork, would probably come out to literal tons of laws on the books when it comes to penalties and things that are supposed to be enforced when it comes to firearms violations, even minimum sentencing even. And while there may be debatable issues within some of those concepts, the thing that is often coming down to me as persuasive is that they're not being uniformly enforced or even just used, as was actually seen with the, I believe it was the Sutherland Springs shooter, who was at certain points on the streets of El Paso. And, well, there was a serious breach in the system there that allowed him to be able to purchase one when the Air Force was supposed to do its, I mean, that we're getting into a lot of other subjects here, but still, point being that there are problems with existing systems that I would love to see addressed before we start getting any further. And, well, what do we need to do to lock this down?
Oh, by the way, reference crime and violence. One thing Greg Abbott did on this, effective January 1st of this year, if you're charged with a violent crime, you cannot get out on a personal recognizance bond only. You do have to have some sort of cash surety supplanting that. In other words, along with that PR bond.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that has been crime and the uptake of it. I don't think I didn't clock both of these issues during the State of the Union either. We talked about them a little bit in terms of the overall State of the Union, local impacts. But yeah, the whole, what do you think deer are wearing Kevlar vest things, and also the kind of vague mention to crime rates and needing to address it. Definitely clocked those during the State of the Union here, even if I'm, well, dissatisfied would be putting it mildly.
Well, like I said about the media and other news sources, you can write volumes of what they don't tell you.
Yeah, that's true. We try to cover as much as we can and bring into the topics here, which is part of the reason we take those calls here. So do appreciate the point in the call here today.
Thank you very much.
All right, you have a good one there. Again, we are taking those calls throughout the rest of this hour here. If you're wanting to do so, 915-544-5876, 544 KTSM. You got to do for that break right now. So if you're on the line, stay there. We'll get with you shortly. Otherwise, we got a lot more comments coming in as well. All of that and the discussion of things that affect us here in the Borderland coming up after this break here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Your host, Andrew J. Polk. Again, the number, 915-544-5876, 544 KTSM. Back after this break with more. Don't go anywhere.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Look for slow and go traffic on the I-10 eastbound between Trans Mountain and Red Road, about a 5-minute delay. Loop 375 northbound at Pelicano. Watch for a DPS vehicle right at the Pelicano exit there. It's blocking the right shoulder. 375 loop southbound at Montana. Another vehicle blocking the right shoulder. Yarborough at Esther, just south of the 10 Gateway. A crash there is blocking traffic. Carrie Edwards, El Paso traffic.
This report is sponsored by General Dynamics Information Technology.
Are you ready for an unparalleled work experience where you see your impact every day? GDIT is hiring IT help desk professionals to solve real-world technical challenges and help protect our nation's security. Apply now at gdit.com/careers.
What's done more to improve overall health and wellness, modern medicine or personal hygiene? Actually, it's both. But considering that bathing went mainstream in the 1800s and brushing your teeth in the 1900s, isn't it time for something new, like cleaning your nose? After all, your nose is the body's air filter for trapping dirt and germs, the first line of defense against allergens, bacteria, and viruses from getting into your lungs. But how do you clean your nose? With Navage. Navage isn't medicine, it's more like plumbing. Navage uses powered suction to pull saline in one nostril to the very back of the nose where germs can get trapped and multiply, and then out the other nostril, flushing out mucus and microbes so you can breathe better, sleep deeper, snore less, and stay healthier. Join over 2 million others and find out for yourself how refreshing and easy to use Navage is. At Navage.com, Walgreens, CVS, Rite Aid, Bed Bath, and Target. Navage. Clean nose, healthy life.
Research shows that people remember radio ads with a booming voice that emphasizes all the main points. So to help you remember that Liberty Mutual Insurance Company customizes your home insurance so you only pay for what you need.
That part is super important.
Here's one with a booming voice.
I'm emphasizing everything.
Liberty Mutual customizes your home insurance.
Like a page with every word highlighted.
Only pay for what you need at libertymutual.com.
Liberty, 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 liberty. Liberty, 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 liberty.
Okay, so we got the chorizo dumplings, the cucumber empanadas.
Sarah's food truck is popping off.
Come on, guys, let's pick it up, all right?
But if she doesn't find a new chef, her truck will be stuck.
Carl quit this morning, so Jessica, I'm gonna need you on the fryer.
Indeed can help her hire great people fast.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. Instant Match instantly connects you with quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your sponsored job description. Visit Indeed.com/credit and get $75 towards your first sponsored job. Terms and conditions apply.
The most current and comprehensive. Just minutes away at the top and bottom of the hour. And always online at KTSMradio.com. News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. Your host, Andrew J. Polk. A lot of ways to interact with the show. Do have that phone line open right now for however you're listening in. 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Welcome to chime in there. Just make sure you get that 915 in there. A lot of comments going in over on our social channel as well. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. YouTube, particularly active right now. Catherine Cordry pointing out criminals don't obey the laws. And also, okay, this is a personal gripe of mine. Whenever it comes down to the conversation about impacts of gun violence, sure, school shootings, things like that, certainly stand out and highlight a lot of, well, emotional things that come along with that. I do recall watching the Sandy Hook situation unfold as it was covered there. Certainly affected me personally and my thinking about things. But when you drill deeper, if you want to really address gun violence in this country, it actually has literally nothing to do with rifles. Rifles are a minority of the gun crime even committed here. Literally watched videos of people breaking into gun stores, ignoring them entirely and going instead for the handguns. Even when we had a part of a kind of a mini crime wave in our area of gun stores getting hit, they're going straight past the literally $1,000 worth of guns and going instead for the handguns, because those are generally the implements of crime here. So I think that if you really want to do something to address that issue, you need to be looking at less the emotional knee-jerk and really drilling down into the data of what the impacts actually are and what you're going to do, because the whole we could do a whole nother damn show on the whole definition of assault rifle and assault weapons and what that actually means and the impacts it actually has when put into reality. But we're not totally that kind of a show here. RJ also pointing out over in the YouTube, lies by omission, aisle 5, shelves empty, supply chain breakdown, truths on the truck here. Apparently a little bit earlier today, according to our news partners over at KFOX 14, there was a leg of the Freedom Convoy truckers passing through Las Cruces, actually just a little bit before our show, actually. I'm looking at if the timeline went right anyway, between 1:30 and 4 p.m. That seeming to have maybe this version of it anyway. I mean, it has petered out in Canada overall, but this leg of it, ever since the advent of the Ukraine conflict, seems to have lost a little bit of steam. But curious to know what you all think about that as well. Again, taking those calls right now through the end of the hour, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. We have a call on the line here right now. We do have Ben on the east side here with us. Ben, thanks for joining us.
Hey, thank you, Andrew. This morning I was listening to Glenn Beck, and he had an interview with Thomas Massey, Senator Thomas Massey, and he wanted to know why Thomas Massey voted against the resolution to support Ukraine. And Thomas Massey was very, very upset and concerned about what this resolution had to say. It said, and it's 7 pages long, and it called for additional and immediate defensive security assistance to Ukraine. Now, that's a very generalized statement, but that's what it was in there. And so does that mean engaging another nuclear power, shooting down Russian jets? A lot of people have been saying that even Sean Hannity was saying that, we should go in and take out that convoy that's going into Kyiv. And we just won't say that it's from our military. We'll just shoot it down. Now, does that sound like a good idea? We're also in the same resolution. It said we are now going to condemn Belarus for supporting Russia and advocating for the overthrow of their government. So are we now going to start overthrowing governments? Are we going to get fully involved with what also they said, fully isolating Russia economically? If do they know what happens then? What after they do something like that? Europe would go dark in hours from lack of gas and oil. The American people are going to suffer from a lack of fertilizer. Fertilizer's gone up 300% in just the last couple of weeks. And our food supply, the cost of food is going to go through the roof. I mean, you've got to look at what, when you pass resolutions like this, you have to start thinking that, after you do that, then what? Then what happens? And these people are not thinking about what then what is.
Oh, absolutely. The doctrine of unintended consequences is very much alive and well within, frankly, most Western thinking, but particularly within this country, the idea of, let's do it, let's jump in both first feet and just not even, damn the torpedoes full speed ahead. And I want to say to look at the track record of that and see how well that has truly worked out here. And the fertilizer issue, that has even been a current going on even pre-invasion of Ukraine. Another one of those wrinkles in the whole China, Russia, Brazil, Venezuela, India, BRICS, I think is the acronym there that I'm thinking of. If I'm mistaken, forgive me if I'm wrong, but that's kind of it's getting increasingly brought up in mentions that I'm seeing when I'm looking at international relations issues as the alternate system, the new, opposition, if we are truly staring down the barrel of another Cold War here. And that's the idea of just isolating it might not actually work out that well.
Andrew, have you ever heard of the term, I think the old saying of biting the hand that feeds you?
Oh, yeah, that's a very common one as well, yeah.
Yeah, does that ring true to what we just talked about just a minute ago?
I mean, we are looking at, you bite the hand that feeds you. To one of your earlier points there as well about the idea of starting overthrowing governments, I think I would be hard-pressed to say if we're truly starting or continuing a trend looking at here, because exactly not something that, has been uncommon within U.S. foreign policy. And I think that record could be, one deserving of a deeper looking at as well, how well that's worked out for us in the long run, regime change in general.
I would say that, unfortunately, that if I was Russia and China and everything else, the way the United States is going, we're heading straight for, what they're doing anyway. Just bide their time, and we're going to be there. We'll be with them any time now because our government just really is on a track to take away all our civil liberties, all our God-given rights. Something's got to be done.
I don't know if I would go totally that far to say that everything is, fire sale time, everything must go. I mean, again, weirder is the phrase that I find the most useful in describing the situation, because things are definitely getting weirder as we're doing all of this. I mean, RJ bringing up the EA Sports ban Russian soccer teams on video game, along with some of like the FIFA stuff. I mean, it does seem like this could be the start of a realignment of the global orders, the way I'm most willing to put it at this point, because if this is truly going to be kind of the point of inflection on how international relations are going to go, stemming around Ukraine and everything coming out of it, things are definitely going to get weirder. But I guess I am not totally sure that we're going to see a collapse of everything. I don't think it'll be in that short of an order. Could certainly, ever since the pandemic really hit, I have been personally thinking and looking at supplies and how things are going. We've talked about on this program before that if you're really wanting to make sure you have something, might be a good idea to stock up there. If you're those 2 cans of bean on the shelf kind of person out there, you might want to address that situation, go to a week, 3 weeks, then 3 months, and even further out there. I know some of this stuff often gets dismissed as like a crazy prepper stuff, but I think that more and more people are waking up to the reality and the idea that well, things are getting more unstable. That's part of what I say is baked into the concept of weirdness coming through, and that it's only going to continue to get, just weirder from here. So thank you for the point in the call. Do appreciate it here. Coming up on the need for this next break here. Coming out of the break, we will get to more of the calls, talk more about some of our top stories of the day. Again, what's going on when it comes to things like noise ordinances, the gas prices around town, and those elections, what we are facing down when it comes to the runoffs and even more elections. I mentioned there's possibility of another election even in between here. We'll break all that down and get to that here on Talk El Paso. You are tuned in here to 690 AM KTSM. Your host, Andrew J. Polk. Again, that number to call, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Back after this break with more Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
I'm Justin Creed, your CBS 4 News update. Fire investigators have made 2 arrests in 2 fires that were set almost at the same time at 2 different locations. 59-year-old Antonio Medrano is accused of starting one of the fires. It happened in an apartment complex near the old William Beaumont Army Medical Center in northeast El Paso. Families had to evacuate the building just before 2 o'clock Monday morning. No one was injured. The other fire happened near a church. Juan Acosta is being charged in that case. This fire, which also happened early Monday morning, damaged some construction equipment not far from Brown Middle School in northwest El Paso. A 36-year-old man from El Paso will spend the next 10 years in prison for trying to arrange a sexual encounter with a 14-year-old girl. He will also have to register as a sex offender. Armando Mascaro was sentenced this week after pleading guilty in October. He was arrested 10 months ago when he showed up to meet the girl, who was actually a law enforcement officer. With your CBS 4 News updates, I'm Justin Cree.
News Radio 690. Traffic all day.
Watch for an injury accident slowing traffic. Sean Haggerty Drive eastbound at Gateway South. Crash at the airport. Airway Boulevard at Boeing Drive. That accident is slowing traffic. You can take Airport Road as an alternate. On Mesa Street, just before you get to Sunland Park, a crash reported there. Wrestler Drive could be an alternate for you. And watch for an injury accident in Pebble Hills at George Dieter. It's Kerry Edwards, El Paso Traffic.
From the KFOX 14 Severe Weather Center, this is Chief Meteorologist Sandra Diaz. The clouds have continued to move on in, and moisture is moving in as well. And we're going to stay overcast as we go through the night, but we are expecting to see bigger changes arriving on Friday. We've got a big area of low pressure moving in out of the west, and it's almost going to act like a spoke as it pinwheels several disturbances through the borderland over the weekend and into the beginning of next week. Bottom line, folks, is we're in for some roller coaster temperatures and some stronger winds with blowing dust.
This report is sponsored by Compassion International.
Poverty was already rampant in Haiti, but the last 2 years have been especially devastating for the children and their families. You can help when you sponsor a child with Compassion International. Get started today by texting the word radio to 97646.
Are you covered by Medicare and Medicaid? Well, El Paso Health Plus is the plan for you. As a local Medicare Advantage plan, we can offer our members more. Call us at 833-742-3125 or ephmedicare.com. El Paso Health Plus.
When your children go to play at someone else's home or they attend a sleepover, ask the homeowner if there is a firearm present and how it is being stored. These are important questions that every parent should ask to help keep their children safe. For resources on how to talk to others about gun safety or information on safe gun storage options, go to safegunstoragetexas.com. Let's keep them safe, Texas. Brought to you by the Texas Department of Public Safety.
Hey, Mario Courtney Lopez here. We know life's moments are definitely better together.
And Smart Mouth mouthwash gives us the confidence to always be ready to make the most of these moments.
Whether in studio, on the red carpet, or around the house, having the confidence to get close is amazing.
Our lives are better together with Smart Mouth. Just 2 rinses a day means fresh breath for 24 hours.
Find it at your favorite drug, grocery, or supercenter store, or save 20% at smartmouth.com/radio.
Staples has the tools your business needs to get work done no matter where. Right now, save up to $100 on select chairs, so your home office has everything your office has. In-store only offer ends 3/5 while supplies last. Explore what's new at Staples, the working and learning store. This report is sponsored by Staples Stores.
KTSM AM El Paso is News Radio 690, an iHeart radio station. News Radio 690, KTSM El Paso.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. I'm your host, Andrew J. Polk. Thank you for tuning in however you may be doing so, on air, online, live streaming through the free and reliable iHeartRadio app. Joining us over on the social pages, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. Catherine Cordry, RJ, and more commenting over on the YouTube. John Browston, Ed Clore, Diana Sanchez, and more. Taking a lot of comments here. Again, there's a good way to do it throughout the show here, but we also got those phone lines open right now. If you're wanting to tune in that way or chime in that way, that number to call, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. A little bit more on the comment from the previous caller there as well about with Thomas Massey from earlier on our programming here today. I mean, it makes sense to look at, again, order of unintended consequences is, we've dealt with that way too many times here within this country. You even go to simple things like forest management and fire services. Now, the idea of putting out every little fire was the predominant theory. I mean, this is coming from my scouting days, so pardon me if that's leaking through here, but the idea of every little fire needs to be put out, and then that leading to the mega fires that come along with it. There's a lot that can be said about the wildfire theory that I have when it comes to, well, European politics in general, but unintended consequences are often, far too often, the order of the day when it comes to a lot of this here. So it's always reasonable to question what is actually being signed, the prevailing narrative even. I mean, okay, if you want to just go into this conflict going on in Ukraine, I've called this one probably the first social media war, and along with that has come the MDM, misinformation, disinformation, malinformation, where literally I've seen the literal same image or the same video getting parroted by both sides of the conflict, both Russian favored or Ukrainian favored, as I'll look at how awful and what awful they are doing to these people kind of thing here. So just be careful with what you're trusting out there, because it's wild times online particularly. All right, get to those calls in the line again. The number to do so, 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. Do have Dave on the east side here with us right now. Dave, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, let's unpack Raul a little bit. You know, gets a little deep. Three-legged monkey was on the corner of Hawkins in Montana. There was no residential homes or apartments within 3 blocks of that. It was all commercial. And I guess he was one of the instigators over there. And how would you like to have Raul as your neighbor? Just think about that. The city, you know, we all get bugged about the city, but the city did spend millions of dollars creating the Union Plaza area on Western and Anthony Street and San Francisco. And they also did some promotion trying to get Texas to be a bar kind of fun area like 6th Street in Austin. And they did some really foolish planning in that they did the events in June. It was over 100 degrees. I think somebody put a thermometer on the asphalt. It was 140 degrees. There are places that patio bars can be. People seem to like bars in their neighborhood, but then when they go home, or the other people in the neighborhood have a right to not like them.
Yeah.
We have an amazing and wonderful thing called the U.S. Constitution. And, you know, you might ask, is it possible to have a composition about something that isn't listed, that isn't mentioned in it? And the answer is yes, because there's something we don't have today. It's been taken away from us, and the Constitution is really about, and that is privacy. We have the right to pursue happiness and enjoyment and the peace and quiet of our own home without businesses and the government and everybody else spying on us all day. Raul tore into the governor. I call him Abbott Costello. He's not my favorite conservative leader. We needed DeSantis in Texas, there's no doubt. But, you know, this bull that this current administrator or president has put on the state of Texas with refusing to honor our borders and allowing anything and everything to come in We were over to Columbus today, and I saw what must be $4 or $5 million of fencing. New Mexico looks like it's done, but $4 or $5 million of that wall just laying there.
Mm-hmm.
And if we don't have borders, we don't have a country. And as I mentioned last week, we promised Ukraine to defend Ukraine against the incursion and attack by Russia if they gave up their nukes. Ukraine gave up their nukes. If we are not going to honor our treaties, then we are not a country. So we have no border. We don't honor our treaties. We do whatever we want to do. And now we come to everybody's talking Second Amendment. There's 10 amendments, Bill of Rights. We would not have a constitution unless those 10 Bill of Rights, our rights against an oppressive, tyrannical government, were passed. And then the last 2 years with Fauci, 9 of the 10 Bill of Rights were taken away from us, absolutely stripped away, violated constantly and consistently by the federal government. The only one that they have that they didn't dishonor was housing troops in our homes, and we know how that would go over.
Quartering,
go
absolutely,
to the tyranny in the north. This Trudeau, who took away people's bank accounts, froze them, threatened to take away their trucks, threatened to ban them from ever having a commercial driver's license. Now we can go over to Ukraine, and it is the weapons of the people that are really defeating Russia. And somebody says, well, why don't we help out with the 40-mile-long convoy? Well, this is how it's done. The anti-tank, the shoulder-fired rifles, or not rifles, but missiles, take out the lead tank. Some heavy guns take out the tankers, which have the fuel for the tanks. They are then set afire with Molotov cocktails, and now the tanks have no fuel. The next trucks in the line are just trucks and Molotov cocktails on the canvas roofs of those, and now the Russians have no supplies. So it is imperative that we have weapons, but it is also imperative that we have the right to worship freely, unopposed, and unfringed, no slippery slope. They don't come near religion. And the Constitution, when it talks about freedom of the press, believe me, it's not talking about globalist, billionaire companies that are run from outside of the country, Chinese controlled. That is not what it's talking about. In partial, it was talking about what I'm doing right now. It's talking about what we do when we post on Facebook or wherever, or hand out pamphlets. The pamphleteers were huge in creating this country, or posting pamphlets on trees and fences. So that's really what that was about. So Raul is just, if he doesn't like it here, there's a whole world full of socialist countries that don't respect people's privacies, don't respect people's rights. But as for me and my house, we demand our 10 Bill of Rights. And it is the left that's arming the country, because before they started their stuff, we didn't have a gun in the house. And now we have 2 shotguns, 2 pistols, and 2 rifles. And we're going to have more and more bullets, because it is the left, the Raouls, that are taking away our constitutional rights.
Interesting points to bring up there, and I just hope on that last point there that besides owning them, which is certainly your right, you're also then training and becoming proficient with them, because ownership of anything does not include then the actual ability to use it. That's just my old, I guess, caveat whenever anyone talks about that is make sure you know what you're doing with it.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, a person should be prudent.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, if we have to have a license to drive an automobile, didn't used to have one, but and I'm not really for this concealed carry without, I don't want to say permit, but certainly there has to be training, which leads to the permit. Absolutely, we don't need accidents, and I've known families that there's been gunshot accidents that have killed kids, and you don't want to be there. You do not want to be there.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for the point in the call there. And just, okay, I feel like you did bring up what is a common misunderstanding when it comes to the Constitution. The Constitution and the Bill of Rights and all of the amendments are not what we are allowed to do by the government, but rather the specific enumeration of the powers that the government is restricted to. The ones that get overlooked way too often are actually those last two, the 9th and the 10th here. So the 9th Amendment, the enumeration of the Constitution of certain rights shall not be construed to deny or disparage others retained by the people. And then the 10th Amendment, the powers not delegated to the United States by the Constitution nor prohibited to it by the states are reserved to the states respectively or to the people. So a lot of people say, oh, well, the Constitution doesn't give you the right to do that. That's not how it works, and why I feel that there should be more of these getting handed out here. Copies of the Constitution and more common understanding of it, but we'll see there. One comment coming in on that there, actually, Michael Armstead disagreeing with the idea of the location of the three-legged monkey being brought up there, saying that that the three-legged monkey being 3 blocks away from homes is blatantly false. Please don't distort facts when making your argument here. Having been at that area, I want to say I never actually visited the bar in operation, but did some reporting on the situation out there, not as a patron. Seemed like it was in the corner of that kind of like golf driving range, golf course area, and that then across the way there would have been some houses there, but maybe I'm misremembering myself here. Anyway, we are coming up on the need for another break here. We'll take one more quick call on the line here. Again, the number to call 915-544-5876, 544-KTSM. You're live with Talk El Paso. Who's this?
Hi, this is my name is Landon. I'm a former major of the Marine Corps who worked in the Ukraine, training it with exercises. And I want to clarify something that your first caller had talked about.
Sure.
The security cooperation is a term that refers to providing training and weapons. It's not referring to direct engagement. Second, having worked with the Ukrainians and knowing their love for freedom and what they've suffered through, when I ran my company as a Marine through the streets of the Ukrainian people used to line the streets and cheer us because they appreciated how much the Americans had stood up for their freedom. And at this critical time, I think we owe them all the support we can give short of direct engagement. And if the Russians are not stopped here, and it's very clear that Putin has gone down a path of ending the liberal period in Russian history and returning back to a totalitarian, very aggressive, bellicose regime, it will not be our first conflict that we have to deal with. It will continue. It will continue. It will continue. So much like Germany and Poland in 1939, you may find all of Europe in Gulf War.
I mean, it's a lot of the conversation coming out of national, international media of how could this happen in Europe is a little tone deaf when it comes to European history in general, because that has been a continent of conflict for most of its history. And we've had I've even heard it referred to as the Pax Americana. I'm not sure if I totally believe that phrase, but I like to believe that we've had it for a while, that of the American peace, essentially, in the order that has come out. And yeah, the question definitely remains, if not being stopped here, where does it? So I greatly appreciate your perspective and your comments on that. Thank you very much.
And one last point.
Certainly.
Much like the Israelis remembering their Holocaust, Ukraine, under the Soviet yoke, was forced to have a famine deliberately that genocided 7 to 9 million Ukrainians.
Yep.
So they remember the Homoldar very well.
The Homoldar and the Kuliaks and all of that. Yeah, it very much a modern part of, and shades of that absolutely present within this conflict of Russian domination of the Ukrainian territory. A very good point to bring up there. I do appreciate it.
All right, thank you, sir.
All right, no, thank you very much here. All right, we are due for that last break of the hour here. We've got a couple more calls on line. We'll squeeze in what we can at the end of it here, but otherwise, you are tuned in to Talk El Paso here on News Radio 690 KTSM. Back after this break with more. Stay tuned.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Watch for an injury accident slowing traffic. Sean Haggerty Drive eastbound at Gateway South. Crash at the airport. Airway Boulevard at Boeing Drive. That accident is slowing traffic. You can take Airport Road as an alternate. On Mesa Street, just before you get to Sunland Park, a crash reported there. Wrestler Drive could be an alternate for you. And watch for an injury accident in Pebble Hills at George Dieter. Kerry Edwards, El Paso Traffic.
This report is sponsored by Staples Stores. Staples has the tools your business needs to get work done no matter where. Right now, save up to $100 on select chairs, so your home office has everything your office has. In-store only offer ends 3/5 while supplies last. Explore what's new at Staples, the working and learning store.
A nefarious murder plot, a jealous brother, and the most secretive nation on the planet. Big Brother, North Korea's Forgotten Prince, is the podcast that dives into the motives behind the 2017 assassination of the oldest son of North Korea's first dictator, Kim Jong-il.
In North Korea, as in the mob, it's business. It's not personal. When somebody challenges you, that challenger must be eliminated.
Listen to Big Brother, North Korea's Forgotten Prince on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts.
Mass Mutual knows that your finances can be an uncomfortable conversation.
Mark, we should really talk about our money.
Yep, we really should.
Like, we never talk about our savings.
No, we never talk about that. Or our assets.
Or our debt.
Yeah, we really should talk about our debt.
We need one of those financial plans.
One of those will make a difference.
We should talk about it.
We really should.
Talk to us about financial wellness today. Feel comfortable about tomorrow. Mass Mutual. Live Mutual.
This is important news. If you have unfiled tax returns, the IRS is shifting gears and ramping up investigations on non-filers this year. If you fail to file your tax returns for a year or more, or you owe back taxes, now's the time to call Optima Tax Relief before the IRS finds you. Optima is America's #1 most trusted tax resolution firm, specialized in helping individuals, families, and businesses get right with the IRS. They're experts in the Taxpayer Relief Initiative, a powerful new program that can make resolving tax issues easier. A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau, Optima's award-winning team has helped thousands of people protect their paychecks, bank accounts, homes, and businesses by putting their tax problems to rest, resolving over $1 billion in tax debts for their clients. Call Optima now for a free consultation.
Call 800-337-4548. That's 800-337-4548. 800-337-4548.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
El Paso's News Radio 690 KTSM.
Live from the KTSM AM 690 studios, it's Talk El Paso with Andrew J. Polk. To be a part of the show, call 915-544-KTSM or follow on Facebook at facebook.com/Talk El Paso. Now here's your host, Andrew J. Polk.
Thank you all so very much for joining us here for Talk El Paso, airing live on News Radio 690 KTSM. Coming around the bend on the end of the program here today. Just a reminder of some of the things we got coming up for you. Of course, tomorrow is Friday, and oh boy, it feels like it's been a while since we've done that, even though we do it weekly on Fridays, free for all Friday, meaning we're taking on all comments and calls throughout the program here. So we'll have the phone line open, taking those comments and doing all of that as it's our pressure relief valve for the week. And oh boy, do we need it. So much going on. And also coming up for you next week, we got more talk with other candidates, those ones who weren't in the mainly competitive races or those that are hoping to face off on more candidates. Get confused at all about that. We'll fully explain it as we get into our coverage next week, just some of the stuff we got coming up for you. So, got at least one more call on the line here, and again, those pound 250 calls as well. Again, if you're wanting to chime in that way, if you're trying to get in right now, but we might not get to it by the end of the show, one of the ways you can leave your 2 cents is by dialing pound 250 on your cell phone, saying the keyword Talk El Paso when prompted, and you can leave your own message like this.
Serious umbrage. This is Mr. Frankie. Serious umbrage, Andrew. No way, Jose, or any other name you could come up with, that you're going to tell me or anybody out there with a brain in their head that people that are tyrants, autocrats, and dictators are liberal. There's no way. Show it to me. Show me one person in the entire world over the last 3,000 years that was a liberal tyrant. Come on, Andrew. They're all conservative kooks. I stand by my original statement until you can prove me wrong. Thank you. I forgot to add another category of whack job, nut job, conservative kook jerks, along with tyrant, dictator, autocrat, include emperor and kings also. None of them, absolutely zero, are liberals. None of them. The only way they stay in power is if they are conservatives, because they can't stand the fact of the people being the people and making the decisions. Come on, Andrew. Unbelievable.
Again, if you want to leave your own message, pound 250, dial that, and then we'll be asked to say a keyword, say Talk El Paso. And okay, I think we're coming down to semantics of what you actually define then as liberal to answer this question, because going off the last caller here, the Holodomor, that famine that caused the deaths of millions and / the whole Gulag archipelago, all of that fun stuff that happened during the, reign of Stalin in Soviet Russia. I mean, he would be considered broadly on the left and, communist, socialist, all that good stuff that comes along with it. Not a whole lot of people in favor of him besides the tankies that I randomly happen to know. But you want to call him of the left persuasion here, broadly, very broadly. That would be fitting that. Or if you want to talk about other, Eastern Asian despots, you want to talk about Pol Pot, you want to talk about Mao, you want to talk about, you could argue that there's some going on with Putin, at least with his roots, even if it's unclear if he wants the USSR back or he just wants the Russian Empire. But anyway, let's define what we're talking about when we say then liberal here, because, hey, you want to go back further in history, Julius Caesar, some of the things that he was working on before he got knifed, as he declared himself the dictator and despot for life, was around housing, using the gains from Eastern campaigns in order to buy up land for the unhoused there. So again, let's be clear about what we're defining then, because I don't think you'll find across history that tyranny has any singular political affiliation, at least in my reading of it. I got time for one last call on the line here. We do have Jerry on the west side here with us. Jerry, thanks for joining us.
Well, thank you, Andrew, for taking my call. My answer to Frank is 3 words. Hillary Rodham Clinton. Okay? She is a tyrant. You can just ask the Secret Service that serve under her or to protect her. Andrew, did you go through all the amendments that they had on the ballots? I did not listen to the first hour because I was working.
So you're talking about the propositions that they had on the Republican side of the ballot?
Yes.
So we haven't strictly addressed those, but if I'm not mistaken, they all passed as far as I'm aware.
Okay, that's what I was wondering. And I didn't understand if they were also just propositions. I thought they were amendments.
Yeah, so those,
But I guess that would...
So to clarify that, no, they are not amendments. There is the potential, there are 2 propositions that could be coming up in early May for another Texas constitutional amendment, but no, if you're talking about the stuff that was on the primary here, those were essentially party planks that could be seen in future legislation, but don't have any force of law based on this partisan ballot that we just came through.
Okay, so they can be adopted as amendments to the Constitution then.
They'd have to go up in their own format that way, but I mean, if they've been brought up here, I wouldn't be surprised if they come up in another format. Absolutely.
All righty. Well, thank you, sir.
Yeah, sure thing. Right. Happy to talk about it here, and we'll be doing more of it here. So thank you for the point in the call. We are going to have to leave it there for today because we're out of time here. So I want to thank everyone who did call in, comment, participate in the show. We'll do it again tomorrow with Free for All Friday on deck. Your calls and comments throughout the program. So stay safe out there. Look twice for motorcycles when out on the road, and have a great evening, y'all. We'll see you tomorrow. Have a good one.
Traffic all day. News Radio 690.
Watch for a stalled vehicle on the I-10 eastbound south of the Trans Mountain at Trade Center. It's blocking the right shoulder. Sean Haggerty Drive eastbound at Gateway South, an injury accident with EMS on the scene. I-10 eastbound at Trowbridge. A disabled vehicle is blocking the right shoulder there. Stay left. Airway Boulevard at Boeing. El Paso police still at that crash out at the airport. Pebble Hills Boulevard eastbound at George Dieter, an accident there. Carry Edwards, El Paso traffic.
If you are covered by Medicare and Medicaid, then El Paso Health Plus Medicare Advantage Plan offers great supplemental benefits designed specifically for El Pasoans, such as $3,500 a year in dental benefits, $300 in vision, and a quarterly OTC card with $250 to spend on health and wellness products. Plus, generous benefits for hearing, podiatry, home-delivered meals, and so much more. Plus, our new Get Fit benefit to keep you active and social, as well as our new Healthy Eats program. At El Paso Health Plus, we go the extra mile for our members because this is our home and our local knowledgeable staff is here to help you get more benefits, more services, more from your health plan. If you are covered by Medicare and Medicaid, call us 833-742-3125 or visit ephmedicare.com. El Paso Health Plus, your local Medicare Advantage plan.
Stay tuned and stay informed with News Radio 690.